Good morning, students. Today, let me start with a new chapter, that is digestion, which is a part of physiology. Under this, first let me go through this anatomy of human digestive system, which is nothing but gastrointestinal tract, shortly abbreviated as GIT. Though you have studied this topic, that is anatomy part of the human digestive system in PU class, just I am refreshing your memories. Probably you might have forgotten this details of this anatomical features. So let me go through it. Living organisms have the ability to obtain nourishment from their environment by various mechanisms. The complex phenomenon of taking in the food, processing it to derive energy, and the elimination of waste is called nutrition. And in human beings, the nutrition is of the holozoic type, that is, the solid food materials are taken into the body and processed. The holozoic nutrition involves the following different steps. First one is ingestion. This is the process of taking in of food from the environment or from the surrounding. Digestion. This is the process of breakdown of, that is, catabolic process of complex food molecules into simple assimilable compounds. This involves a number of biocatalysts called enzymes. Therefore, digestion can also be defined as the enzymatic hydrolysis of the food materials. That is, the hydrolysis process through enzymes, that is, of the food materials. That is the short and the comprehensive definition that we can give for digestion. Digestion can be distinguished into different types. The first one being mechanical digestion, and this is a process of physical breakdown of larger pieces of food into smaller bits, and it takes place in the buccal cavity as well as in other parts of the human alimentary canal with the help of teeth, or in the stomach, or in other part of the alimentary canal with the help of the contractions of its wall. Chemical digestion. This is the process of hydrolysis of carbohydrates, proteins and fats with the help of enzymes. Third one, intracellular digestion. If the hydrolysis of food takes place within a single cell, it is called intracellular digestion. And it is to be noted that this type of digestion is seen only in such primitive animals like protozoans, and to some extent in poriferans and coelentrates too, where they do not have a proper digestive system to carry out the process of digestion. Next type, extracellular digestion. If the hydrolysis of the food takes place in a digestive cavity outside the cells, it is called extracellular digestion. So, it is very clear that such animals have a well-developed digestive system to carry out the process of digestion. Example, hydra, earthworms, cockroach, frog, man, etc. Coming to the next step of this nutrition process, that is absorption. This is a process of transfer of digested materials from the lumen of the digestive cavity into the bloodstream, and in humans the absorption takes place in the intestinal villi to a greater extent. Transportation. This is the process of distribution of absorbed nutrients to the different tissues, and in the humans transportation is through the blood and the lymph. These are the two major vehicles that are there in our body which can carry so many other things too. Next is assimilation. This is the process of resynthesis, that is anabolic process of simpler substances into major complex molecules, and this process takes place in the tissues where the nutrients are made into a part and parcel of the cytoplasm. So here in this assimilation, the digested and absorbed food materials will be utilized by the body cells. Agitation. This is the process of elimination of undigested and unabsorbed waste from the digestive system, and this can also be called as defecation. And in humans, the process of digestion takes place in the digestive system, and this system consists of an alimentary canal, also called GIT, and a few digestive glands like salivary glands, gastric glands, intestinal glands, liver, and pancreas. The alimentary canal or GIT. The alimentary canal can be broadly divided into three parts, that is foregut or stomodium, example mouth and buccal cavity; the midgut, also known as mesenteron, example pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine and colon; and the hindgut, also known as proctodium, example rectum and anus. So these are the different parts of the human alimentary canal, and it is having a total length of around 30 feet. Buccal cavity. The mouth leads into a small space called the vestibule, which is between the lips and the teeth. The vestibule leads into a spacious cavity called the buccal cavity, and it is also called oral cavity, and it is bounded by the upper and lower jaws. The roof of the buccal cavity has a hard anterior part and a soft posterior part, and the hard part is the hard palate, while the soft part is the soft palate. So in general, the upper part of the buccal cavity is called palate. And at the posterior end of the soft palate, there is a loose flap of tissue called uvula, which closes the internal nostrils while the food is being swallowed. So that plays a major role in prevention of the entry of food into the nostrils. On the floor of the buccal cavity, there is a muscular organ called the tongue, and on the upper and lower jaws, there are hard biting structures called the teeth. There are also three pairs of salivary glands on the inside walls of the buccal cavity. Coming to teeth. Teeth are hard, white, shining structures found on the upper and lower jaws, and the teeth are embedded in the sockets in the jaws, and so the human dentition is called thecodont dentition. And the teeth appear in two sets during the lifetime of a person. The first set of the teeth are called milky teeth, appear by about 6 months and last up to 6 to 12 years of age, and there are 20 such teeth. The second set of teeth are called permanent teeth, and it is also called non-deciduous type, which appear by about 6 to 12 years and last almost throughout the life. There are 32 permanent teeth. Since the teeth appear in two sets in humans, it is called diphyodont dentition. And the teeth are located in sockets found in the jaw bones, so the dentition is also called thecodont dentition. The human teeth are of different varieties and shapes, such as incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. Therefore, the human dentition is also called the heterodont dentition. And the number and kind of teeth can be expressed in a dental formula, which is as follows: I 2 by 2, C 1 by 1, PM 2 by 2, M 3 by 3. So that is equal to 16 into 2 is equal to 32. That means in the upper jaw there will be 16 number of teeth are there, and in the lower jaw the same number will be there. So wherein I refers to incisors, C refers to canine, PM refers to premolar, and M refers to molar. So this will be the structure of the anatomy of this human tongue. And at the back end of this tongue there will be a structure called epiglottis. This epiglottis prevents the entry of food into the respiratory system, and below that you will find an arch, what is called as palatopharyngeal arch, which is the extension of the palate. And just below that there will be the presence of tonsils, which are referred to be as palatine tonsils, and Below that, this tongue, it is a spoon-shaped structure, and it is having the two surfaces like dorsum and ventrum. And in the center part of the dorsal region, we will come across with a small depression of the groove, what is called as medial sulcus of the tongue. And on the dorsal surface of the tongue, it is very rough or coarse in appearance. It is because of the types of papilla that it has. However, there are no such papillae and taste buds on the lower surface or the ventral surface. And these papillae are of the three major types in the human tongue. They are foliate papillae, valate, that is circumvallate papillae, and then fungiform papillae. So these are the some important types of papillae which are present in the human tongue. Then this human tongue, it also has these taste buds, as I told you already, which are found inside the papillae. And it is to be noted that papillae can be seen through the naked eyes, but not these taste buds. And these taste buds, which are meant for tasting or sensing the different types of sense of taste that we have. Coming to pharynx, it is a small 14 centimeter long region divisible into three parts like the nasopharynx, oropharynx, and the laryngopharynx. The buccal cavity opens into the oropharynx. On its lateral walls, there are two lymphoid swellings called tonsils, which you have seen in the previous slide. And the oropharynx leads into the esophagus. The pharynx helps in swallowing, which is also called deglutition. The next part will be esophagus. It is about 25 centimeter long muscular tube which connects the pharynx and the stomach. Its inner wall performs a downward wavy movement called peristalsis, which is unique for this region. This helps to send the food downward into the stomach. This esophagus, it pierces through the diaphragm through an opening called esophageal hiatus. And this esophagus does not contain any digestive glands in it, so it just conducts the food material which it has received from the pharynx, and the same being is conveyed towards the stomach. Coming to stomach, it is a J-shaped muscular chamber about 30 centimeter long and 10 centimeter wide. It is divisible into four parts, namely the cardiac stomach, fundus, body, and pylorus. The esophagus opens into the cardiac stomach, and its entrance is guarded by a valve called cardiac sphincter, which will prevent the reverse flow of the food from stomach back towards the esophagus. And the pylorus opens into the small intestine, which is the last part of the stomach, and at this place there is another valve called pyloric sphincter, which prevents the reverse flow of the food from duodenum, that is small intestine, to stomach. So there are two distinct sphincters are there, one in the beginning and one at the end of the stomach. The inner wall of the stomach is raised into a number of folds called the rugae, and these rugae play an important role in bringing about the process, a kind of mechanical process called churning of the food, which occurs in the stomach. The inner wall is also provided with millions of glands called the gastric glands, which secrete the gastric juice, and the stomach is highly distensible. It helps in mechanical and chemical digestion of the food. So, stomach is one of the very important component of the human alimentary canal. Small intestine. It is approximately 7 meters long. So though it is very long, but still it is called small intestine because its lumen is very narrow. And it is having a width of about 2 centimeter only, and it is divisible into three parts. They are duodenum, having a length of about 25 centimeter, jejunum of about 2.5 meter, and the ileum of about 3.5 meter. The duodenum receives the bile duct and pancreatic duct, and the inner lining of the small intestine is raised into semicircular folds called plicae circularis or valves of Kerckring. And on these folds there are minute, about 0.5 millimeter to 1 millimeter tall intestinal microvilli, and it is these microvilli which increases the surface area of absorption. So it facilitates the absorption of digested food materials. And on the inner lining of the duodenum, there are certain glands called Brenner's glands which secrete an alkaline mucus which is playing an important role in digestion. And on the inner wall of the jejunum, there are the intestinal glands or the crypts of Lieberkühn which secrete the succus entericus, that is intestinal juice, the digestive juice secreted by small intestine. The ileum opens into the cecum on the right side, and this entrance is guarded by an ileocecal valve. Coming to last part, large intestine. The large intestine is about 1.5 meter long and 6 centimeters wide. Along its wall, there are 3 longitudinal bands of muscles called teniae coli. And these muscles contract and throw the large intestine into a number of sacculations, a kind of bead-like appearances on the large intestine. The large intestine is also called the colon in general, and at the junction between small and large intestine on the right side there is a blind pouch called the cecum, and attached to the cecum there is a 10 centimeter long worm-like process called the vermiform appendix. This vermiform appendix, it is a vestigial organ having no definite function in the present day humans, but well developed and functional in our ancestors. And this organ may undergo inflammation due to the bacterial or worm infection sometimes, and this situation is called appendicitis by the time it has to be either treated with antibiotics or by means of surgery. The colon is divisible into ascending, a transverse, and a descending, and a sigmoid colon. So 3 divisions can be seen in the colon. The sigmoid colon enters the rectum, and in the colon absorption of water, glucose, salts, etc. and partial cellulose digestion takes place. It also stores digestive waste. So that is the functional aspects of large intestine. Now coming to the rectum, it is about 20 centimeter long, and the inner wall is raised into a number of longitudinal folds called the columns of Morgangii, and the last 3 centimeter region is called the anal canal, which opens out by an anus, and the anus is guarded by 2 anal sphincter. So this will be the diagram showing the anatomical features of this human digestive system, and the details of which I already explained you, and this diagram is for your reference for further information. So this is another photograph which will show you how these different organs of this digestive system or alimentary canal are being arranged. So with this, let me stop at this level. In the next class, we will continue with the physiology of digestion. Thank you.